Hi, this is the Teaserking coming to you with my little picks for week 2 in college, week 1 in pros, 2011. Had a great week last week, 6-1, and had the locks come in at Stanford and Hawaii, and it was very good, very interesting. A few comments. The TCU Baylor game, I was really surprised Baylor put up 50 points on TCU. Looks like TCU's problem is a good passing attack, and the receivers are one-on-one coverage. They were perfect passes that beat them, and there's really nothing you can do. It just happened. They executed it. The key will be this week to see if TCU can bounce back, how they'll play after a loss, which they haven't had in a couple of years. Obviously, quarterback's not going to be their issue, and they match up very well against Air Force, so I look for them to bounce back here. Strange spreads in week 2. There's 2 that have caught my eyes in the pros and a couple in college. San Diego's 9 over Minnesota. That seems extremely high. I don't understand that. Donovan McNabb's still a very good quarterback, and I know they've lost the Williams boys in the middle, but this is the pros. Defensive tackles are defensive tackles. That won't matter. Still have Adrian Peterson. They still have Percy Harvin, and I just don't see San Diego being 10 points, 9 points better than Minnesota. Another strange line is in college. I'm looking at Arizona State 8 over Missouri. This game should be 14 or 15 points. I don't really understand it. Missouri scored 17 last week against, I don't remember, some small school, Southwest Missouri or something like that. They don't show a lot of offense. Arizona State's a very, very good team. They'll challenge Oregon and Stanford for the Pac-10. They're just a little bit lower. They're a very, very good team. I think that spread's very, very low. Another spread that I really don't understand. Notre Dame goes to Michigan, and Notre Dame's favored by 3.5. Michigan should be a 4-point favorite in this game. They're at home. Their defense looked very good last week against a very good offense of Western Michigan. Western Michigan's one of the top MAC teams, and they have a very good quarterback. So games in Michigan, I'm just very, very surprised this spread is Notre Dame favored. Notre Dame had 3 turnovers in the goal at the South Florida goal line. I understand that, but a lot of times when you got the lead 16-0, you're not putting up the offense. You're just running the ball, running the clock. So there's no reason that South Florida really tried much. Notre Dame conversely had to throw all the time, and so they're going to put up a lot of yards. So it looks very deceiving. At the end of the day, they only put up 20 points, and when they needed to stop South Florida, they couldn't, and that's when they went from 16 to 23. I find that Notre Dame's a good offense, and I don't see their defense. Their defense is getting better, but in this game, I rank this game even. I think Michigan is better at home, and I really look for Michigan to win this game. They should be favored. I just don't really understand it here. Another kind of spread that I see off here. You got Wisconsin 21 over Oregon State. And I know Oregon State lost to Sacramento State last week. I find this spread way too high. Wisconsin beat UNLV, who's probably one of the 5 worst teams in college football, and they ran it down their throats, and I get that. But Oregon State had Their running back got like 223 yards last week, or it could have been more. I'm just throwing the number out there. I know it was over 200, and good luck trying to stop him, Wisconsin. The quarterback play at Oregon State's always good. They got a very good head coach. They play USC, Stanford, Oregon every year. I just don't buy this 21-point spread. Wisconsin. I know they have a lot of injuries at Oregon State. James Rogers, Jack Kreis's brother, is out. But again, they'll have receivers. I think they looked ahead. They had Sacramento State, obviously, and they're looking at Wisconsin. And you get that sometimes. Some notes from week 1. Some strange scores that I thought happened. I thought it said a lot that Purdue had to come back and win their game 27-24. I think that shows Purdue's kind of weak. Indiana lost to Ball State. That shows Indiana's very, very weak. USC only beating Minnesota, who's a very bad team, 19-16. I thought shows how weak USC is, because they should have, if it's Ohio State hosting Minnesota, Ohio State puts a 40 up on them. So I'm a little surprised by that score. Now they get Mark Taylor back, USC, out of desperation. But I don't know how strong USC really is. A few other games. Auburn 42, Utah State 38. What I get out of it is Auburn's defense is weak. Their quarterback, who replaced Cam Newton, looks okay. But I look at it as I don't understand Auburn. I think Utah State is a very, very live dog, and I would not want to bet against them unless I'm playing Boise State. Otherwise, I just see Utah State as a very strong dog. Be very good against some of the weaker WAC teams, and that's kind of what you get out of week 1. Is I watched part of that game and I didn't see where Utah State was intimidated at all. Should have won the game if they knew how to field an onside kick, and that I'll blame on the special teams coach. But from what I saw, very strong offense, and it's still Auburn, but I don't see, I don't think Auburn's that strong, and it makes Utah State look very, very strong. That was no fluke. Probably the number 1 team in the country is Boise State. Any team that can go to Georgia and basically kick their butt, and it wasn't even close. It was 35-21. It was really 35-14. They go and they gave up a quick 7 on an 80-yard run. Didn't even phase them. It's Boise. This team is number 1. I'm sorry. I don't know too many teams, you can include Alabama and Oklahoma, who could go to Georgia and beat them the way Boise did. And I know they might have a weaker schedule, although they do have TCU at home. And after watching that game, Boise will win by over 20 against TCU. I'm waiting for that one. But I look at Georgia was fired up, had to win the game. They go in there with 90% of the fans, Georgia fans, in a big dome, and they just kicked their butt. I mean, they just dominated the game. It was really not even as close as 35-21. I know everybody likes Andrew Luck. I'll take Kellen Moore all day long. He's Joe Montana. This guy's so cool. I mean, this is Georgia. He just carved them up at Georgia. Without the top 2 receivers who went pro, top 2 or 3 round draft picks. I know the Lions got one of them. It was like the 2nd or 3rd round. So he replaces 2 NFL receivers, and he doesn't miss a beat. He's 28 out of 32, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, whatever. It was a joke. I mean, this guy is so much better than anybody. It's a joke. Andrew Luck is outstanding, of course. they're better than Landry Jones. I'll take them all day over Landry Jones. And it's just phenomenal team. Boise, absolutely #1 team in the country. They would go to Oklahoma, they'd win the game without a problem. They'd go to Alabama, they'd win the game without a problem. You can say what you want. They went to Georgia in a dome, not a neutral site, and beat the hell out of them. So Georgia's not, yeah, when they lose to Boise, then you can say, well, they're not a good team. But we'll see what happens this week. I'm a bit surprised by their spread. That South Carolina's 3-point favorite over Georgia. That's a surprising spread. I think South Carolina's a better team, but Georgia should be favored in this game, 3 to 4 points, just because they're at home off of a loss. The other one's Mississippi State 6.5 over Auburn. It's kind of a weird spread where Mississippi State's never been favored here. This is a very strange. Is Mississippi State ready to be a road favorite? This is how I really judge if a team is very good. If they are a road favorite in this situation and they can pull the win and they can cover the spread, that tells me how strong the team is, because it's not easy to go as a road favorite, especially when you're going to Auburn and Georgia. So both these teams, South Carolina and Mississippi State, will show really how good they are. And I know they're very good teams. I had Mississippi State in week 1, and I don't see, they're top 10 teams, but, you're asking them to go as a road favorite to Georgia and Auburn, and it's a very tough task. So I don't know. Those are games I will not play. I will watch. If anything, I would take the home dogs, but I don't like, Auburn gives up 38 to Utah State. Mississippi State runs the ball better, so it's kind of a bad matchup. I'm just saying the personality of them being road favorites is extremely difficult to play. I don't like playing road favorites like them. I don't mind a Boise as a road favorite, a TCU, an Oklahoma, Alabama, but I don't like this. Another spread I don't like, I'm laying away from, is Alabama-Penn State. Alabama's a 9.5, 10-point favorite. I do not like this game. I do not like Alabama with a new quarterback going to Penn State. It's raining. It'll probably be raining, and it's getting cold. I know it's September, but you're asking Alabama to go as a 10-point road favorite to Penn State, where they pounded Penn State at home last year, and I locked that game. I had Alabama. I think they're laying 7 or 8 to Penn State, chopped it down to 1 or 2, and it was a lock. I don't see this. This is not play Alabama here. This is avoid Alabama. This is watch the game. These are the trap games. It's very tough for Alabama to go to North, to go to Penn State. And I watch Ohio State, and I watch Michigan when they were good, and Michigan State go to Penn State. They don't win the game. They don't blow out. You don't blow out Penn State at home. Penn State has a very good defense. I know Alabama does too. Penn State will grind the ball. It'll be a very close game. They'll get a few turnovers. This game will be much closer than a 25, 30-point Alabama blowout, which is what you're saying when you're laying 10 points. You lay 10, you're saying the team's going to win by at least 21. And if you don't think that, then you can't lay the 10, and I don't see that at all. Another game to be careful of is Stanford 21 over Duke. I like Stanford. I'm going to play Stanford. Just be careful of the time. Cal went to, I think, Wake Forest a couple years ago, and they switched the game to a noon game. So you got a West Coast team playing at 9 in the morning, and they lost the game. And it might have been Stanford. It was either Stanford or Cal. I think it was Stanford, and they went and they lost. And then I got them back because when they went to Stanford, they made it a night game. So it was 7:30 on the West Coast, which was 10:30 for Wake Forest. So they got even. So Stanford won big last year at home, but a couple years ago when they went to Wake, they made the game at noon. Just be careful when these West Coast teams go to the East Coast. It's a 3:30 kickoff. As long as it stays 3:30, it'll be fine. I like Stanford. I think they'll win. Duke lost to nobody week 1. I think Stanford puts on a show. I think they'll win by about 35, 40 points, but just be careful with the time. A real live dog I like is Hawaii against Washington. I watched the Hawaii-Colorado game, and Hawaii's got a fantastic defensive line and a good quarterback. Washington's got a new quarterback. They beat Washington, Northern Washington, one of these weak Washington teams, 17-14 or 20-17 last week. So I just see that. I like Hawaii. I think they're a live dog this week. Anyway, go to www.teaserking.com.